In a city filled with towering buildings and busy streets, there lived a young man named Ethan. He came from one of the richest families in the country. His father was a successful businessman who owned many companies, and his mother was known for her elegance and charm. From the outside, Ethan's life seemed perfect. He lived in a luxurious mansion, drove expensive cars, and attended elite schools where only the children of powerful people studied. But despite all the wealth and comfort surrounding him, Ethan was different from others like him. He didn't care much for fancy parties or showing off his money. Instead, he preferred simple things, like taking long walks alone, talking to strangers, and observing the world around him. One sunny afternoon, Ethan decided to visit the local market with a group of his friends. They were bored at home and thought it would be fun to explore the lively bazaar that buzzed with energy every day. The market was a place where rich and poor mingled, though not always by choice. Vendors shouted loudly, trying to attract customers, to their colorful stalls filled with fruits, vegetables, spices, and handmade goods. The air smelled of fresh food mixed with the faint scent of incense burning nearby. It was noisy, crowded, and chaotic, but Ethan loved it. To him, this part of the city felt alive in a way his polished neighborhood never could. As they wandered through the narrow lanes, Ethan noticed something unusual. Sitting on the edge of the sidewalk, away from the crowd, was a small boy. He looked no older than 10, maybe even younger. His feet were bare, covered in dust from walking on the rough ground. His clothes were old and patched up, clearly too big for his thin frame. A mop of unruly hair fell over his forehead, and his face was smudged with dirt. Despite his appearance, there was something striking about the boy, his eyes. They were wide and bright, full of curiosity and intelligence, as if he saw the world differently from everyone else. Ethan stopped walking, his attention completely focused on the boy. His friends, noticing that he wasn't following them anymore, turned back to see what had caught his eye. "What's wrong?" one of them asked, glancing toward the boy sitting on the ground. Before anyone could say anything more, Ethan raised his arm and pointed directly at the child. In a loud, clear voice, he declared, "That's my brother." For a moment, there was silence. Then laughter erupted among his friends. They thought Ethan was joking, making light of the situation, because it seemed impossible for someone like him to claim any connection to a street child. After all, Ethan lived in a world of privilege while the boy appeared to come from the opposite end of the spectrum. But Ethan didn't laugh. He didn't smile or make any effort to explain himself further. Instead, he took a step forward, leaving his amused friends behind. As he approached the boy, his heart raced with anticipation. He didn't know why he felt so drawn to the child, but something inside him told him this meeting wasn't accidental. When he reached the boy, he knelt down so they were at the same height. Up close, Ethan could see the details he hadn't noticed before: the cracks in the boy's lips, the calluses on his hands, and the faint scars on his arms. Yet none of these flaws diminished the boy's presence. If anything, they made him seem stronger, braver. "Hi," Ethan said softly, breaking the silence. The boy looked up, startled by the sudden interruption. At first, he seemed unsure whether to trust this stranger dressed in designer clothes, but there was warmth in Ethan's voice, a kindness that reassured him. Slowly, the boy relaxed and met Ethan's gaze. "What's your name?" Ethan asked, his tone gentle yet curious. The boy hesitated for a second, then replied quietly, "Ravi." Hearing the name, Ethan smiled. "Nice to meet you, Ravi. I'm Ethan." For a few moments, neither of them spoke. They simply stared at each other, two individuals from vastly different worlds brought together by fate. Finally, Ethan's eyes fell on the wooden box clutched tightly in Ravi's hands. It was old and worn, its surface scratched and faded from years of use. Something about it intrigued Ethan. "What do you have there?" he asked, nodding toward the box. Ravi instinctively pulled it closer to his chest, as if protecting it from prying eyes. Ethan noticed the defensive gesture but didn't push. Instead, he leaned back slightly and added, "It's okay. You don't have to show me if you don't want to." Ravi studied Ethan's face carefully, searching for any sign of mockery or malice. Finding none, he slowly loosened his grip and opened the lid of the box, Inside were a collection of odd items: a broken watch with a cracked face, a set of rusty keys, a few faded photographs, and some small trinkets that looked like they had been picked out of trash bins. To most people, these objects might seem worthless, mere scraps of discarded junk. But to Ravi, they were treasures, each one holding a story or memory he cherished deeply. Ethan's expression softened as he examined the contents of the box. He didn't judge or ridicule. Instead, he felt a deep sense of admiration for the boy in front of him. Here was someone who had nothing, yet managed to find value in things others would throw away. It was a lesson in resilience, creativity, and gratitude, all qualities Ethan admired greatly. Turning his head slightly, he called out to his friends who were still standing a short distance away, watching the interaction with growing curiosity. "Come here," he said, motioning for them to join him. Reluctantly, his friends obeyed, forming a loose circle around Ethan and Ravi. At first, they teased Ethan about his newfound brother, but their tone quickly shifted when he began explaining the significance of the items in the box. "Look at this," Ethan said, picking up the broken watch. "It doesn't work anymore, but imagine how much effort Ravi must have put into finding it. And these keys, he probably thought they might unlock something important someday." His words painted a picture of a boy who refused to give up, who found purpose even in the smallest, most overlooked things. One of Ethan's friends, a girl named Mia, bent down to get a closer look. "Wow," she murmured, genuinely impressed. "I wouldn't have thought twice about stuff like this if I saw it lying around." Another friend chimed in, "Yeah, I'd probably just walk past it without noticing." Ethan nodded, glad they were starting to understand. "Exactly," he said. "That's what makes Ravi special. He sees potential where others see garbage." The conversation continued for a while longer, with Ethan encouraging Ravi to share more about himself. Though shy at first, Ravi gradually opened up, revealing snippets of his life. He talked about how he scavenged for food and shelter, how he dreamed of going to school someday, and how he hoped to reunite with his family, whom he hadn't seen in years. Each word tugged at Ethan's heartstrings, filling him with a mix of sadness and determination. By the time the sun began setting, casting golden hues across the sky, Ethan knew one thing for certain. This encounter was only the beginning of something far greater than he could have imagined. As the evening shadows grew longer, Ethan realized it was time to make a decision. He couldn't just leave Ravi sitting there on the sidewalk, not after everything he had learned about him. The boy's story had touched something deep inside, Ethan stirring emotions he hadn't felt before. It wasn't pity, not exactly. It was more like admiration mixed with responsibility. Here was someone who had faced hardships beyond what most people could imagine, yet still held on to hope and dignity. Ethan knew he couldn't walk away from that. Turning to Ravi, Ethan asked gently, "Do you have a place to stay tonight?" Ravi shook his head slowly, his eyes dropping to the ground. He didn't want to admit it, but the truth was obvious. He slept wherever he could find shelter, sometimes under a bridge, sometimes in an abandoned building, or even just curled up in a corner of the market. Ethan nodded as if he had expected the answer. Then, without hesitation, he extended his hand and said, "Come with me. You can stay at my house tonight. We'll get you some food, clean clothes, and a proper bed." Ravi hesitated, staring at Ethan's outstretched hand. He had been approached by strangers before, and not all of them had good intentions. Trust didn't come easily to someone like him, who had learned to survive on his own. But there was something about Ethan that felt different. His voice was kind, his eyes sincere, and his actions spoke louder than words. After a long pause, Ravi finally reached out and placed his small hand in Ethan's much larger one. The gesture sealed a bond between them, though neither fully understood its significance yet. Ethan introduced Ravi to his friends, explaining that they were heading back home. Some of his friends exchanged uncertain glances, unsure how to react to this unexpected turn of events. But Ethan didn't care what they thought. He led the way, walking confidently through the crowded streets with Ravi by his side. Along the way, Ethan tried to make conversation, asking Ravi questions about his life. At first, Ravi answered cautiously, giving short replies. But as they walked, he began to relax, sharing more details about his daily struggles and dreams for the future. When they arrived at Ethan's mansion, Ravi stopped in his tracks, his mouth hanging open in awe. The house was enormous, with gleaming white walls, tall windows, and a sprawling garden filled with flowers and fountains. A uniformed guard opened the gate for them, and a chauffeur stood ready to park their car. To Ravi, it looked like something out of a dream, a world so far removed from the one he knew. He felt out of place, almost afraid to step inside. Sensing his discomfort, Ethan put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry," he said with a smile. "You're welcome here." Inside, the house was just as grand as it appeared from the outside. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceilings, expensive paintings adorned the walls, and plush carpets covered the floors. Servants moved quietly through the hallways, attending to their tasks with precision. Ravi followed Ethan, feeling both amazed and overwhelmed. He clutched his wooden box tightly, as if holding on to a piece of his old life for comfort. When they entered the dining room, a table laden with delicious food awaited them. Plates of roasted chicken, steaming rice, fresh salads, and desserts were arranged beautifully, filling the room with mouth-watering aromas. Ethan encouraged Ravi to sit down and eat, assuring him that there was plenty for everyone. At first, Ravi hesitated, unused to such luxury, but hunger eventually got the better of him and he began to eat cautiously, savoring every bite. As they dined together, Ethan continued to ask questions, learning more about Ravi's past. He discovered that Ravi's parents had died in an accident when he was very young, leaving him to fend for himself. Since then, he had relied on his wits and resourcefulness to survive, scavenging for food and shelter wherever he could find it. Listening to Ravi's story, Ethan felt a mix of sadness and anger. How could society allow a child to live like this? Why hadn't anyone stepped in to help him sooner? These questions swirled in his mind, fueling a growing determination to make a difference. After dinner, Ethan took Ravi upstairs to a guest bedroom. The room was spacious and elegantly decorated with a soft bed, a desk, and a wardrobe full of clothes. For Ravi, it felt like stepping into another universe. He stood awkwardly in the doorway, unsure what to do next. "Make yourself comfortable," Ethan said warmly. "This is your room for tonight." He handed Ravi a set of clean pajamas and showed him where the bathroom was. "If you need anything, just let me know." Ravi nodded silently, still processing everything that had happened. Once Ethan left the room, Ravi sat down on the edge of the bed, clutching his wooden box. Despite the comfort surrounding him, he felt uneasy, as if he didn't belong in such a luxurious setting. Yet at the same time, he couldn't deny the relief of having a safe place to sleep for the night. The next morning, Ethan woke up early, eager to check on Ravi. He found the boy already awake, sitting by the window and gazing out at the garden below. Ravi's face lit up when he saw Ethan and he smiled shyly. Over breakfast, Ethan shared an idea that had been forming in his mind. "I've been thinking," he began, "and I'd like to adopt you. Not just for tonight, but forever. You could live here with us, go to school, and have a real family again." Ravi's eyes widened in shock. Adoption? It sounded too good to be true. He stammered, But, why would you do that for me?" Ethan leaned forward, his expression serious. "Because I believe everyone deserves a chance to succeed. You're smart, brave, and strong, qualities that should be nurtured, not ignored. And besides," he added with a grin, "you're my brother now, remember?" The idea of becoming part of Ethan's family filled Ravi with a mixture of excitement and fear. Could he really leave his old life behind? Would he fit in with Ethan's parents and their world of wealth and privilege? These doubts lingered in his mind, but one thing was certain. Ethan's offer gave him hope for the first time in years. Later that day, Ethan broke the news to his parents. They were surprised, to say the least. Adopting a street child wasn't something they had ever considered, and they raised concerns about the challenges it might bring. But Ethan was persistent, explaining how Ravi had inspired him and why he believed this was the right thing to do. Eventually, his parents agreed to meet Ravi and hear his story. When they did, they were struck by his resilience and intelligence. Though hesitant at first, they came to see the potential in Ravi and agreed to support Ethan's decision. With their approval, the process of formal adoption began. Lawyers were hired, paperwork was filed, and arrangements were made to ensure Ravi's transition into his new life would be smooth. During this time, Ethan stayed by Ravi's side, guiding him through each step. He helped him pick out new clothes, enrolled him in a nearby school, and introduced him to hobbies like reading and playing sports. Slowly but surely, Ravi started to adapt to his new environment. Yet, despite all the changes, Ravi remained humble and grateful. He never forgot where he came from or the lessons he had learned on the streets. Those experiences shaped him into the person he was, teaching him values like perseverance, empathy, and gratitude. And as he settled into his new life, he vowed to use his second chance to help others who were still struggling. Little did he know, this promise would lead him and Ethan on a journey that would change countless lives, including their own. As the days turned into weeks, Ravi began to adjust to his new life in Ethan's mansion. It wasn't easy at first. Everything felt unfamiliar and overwhelming. The soft beds, the warm showers, and the endless supply of food were luxuries he had only dreamed of before. But more than the material comforts, it was the sense of belonging that took time to sink in. For years, Ravi had been on his own, relying solely on himself for survival. Now he had a family, a real family, who cared about him and wanted to see him succeed. Ethan played a big role in helping Ravi settle in. He didn't treat him like a charity case or someone who needed constant fixing. Instead, he treated him as an equal, respecting his opinions and encouraging him to express himself. They spent hours talking about their lives, sharing stories, and learning from each other. Ethan introduced Ravi to books, movies, and games he had never experienced before. In return, Ravi taught Ethan how to find beauty in simple things like watching the sunset or listening to birds chirp in the morning. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, proving that family isn't defined by blood, but by love and understanding. One of the biggest challenges for Ravi was starting school. He had always dreamed of getting an education, but now that the opportunity was finally here, he felt nervous. What if he couldn't keep up with the other students? What if they made fun of him because of his background? These fears weighed heavily on his mind, but Ethan reassured him every step of the way. "You're smarter than you think," Ethan told him one evening as they sat together in the study room. "And even if you struggle at first, I'll be right there to help you." On his first day of school, Ravi dressed carefully in the new uniform Ethan's mother had bought for him. As he stood in front of the mirror, smoothing out imaginary wrinkles, he couldn't help but feel self-conscious. Would the other kids accept him? Or would they see him as an outsider? Taking a deep breath, he reminded himself of Ethan's words. Believe in yourself. With that thought, he walked out of the house, his wooden box tucked safely under his arm. At school, Ravi quickly realized that fitting in wasn't going to be as hard as he had imagined. His teachers were kind and patient, taking extra time to explain concepts he didn't understand. His classmates, though initially curious about his unusual story, soon warmed up to him. They admired his determination and resourcefulness, qualities that set him apart from others. Over time, Ravi became known not just as the boy who lived on the streets, but as someone who worked hard and inspired those around him. Despite his growing confidence, Ravi faced moments of doubt. There were times when he struggled to grasp difficult subjects or felt left behind during group activities. On those days, he would retreat to his room, clutching his wooden box and wondering if he truly belonged in this new world. But Ethan was always there to lift his spirits. He reminded Ravi of how far he had come and encouraged him to keep pushing forward. "You've already overcome so much," Ethan would say. "This is just another challenge, and you'll get through it." Outside of school, Ravi discovered new passions. Inspired by Ethan's love for reading, he developed a fascination for stories about people who rose above adversity. He devoured books about inventors, explorers, and leaders who had changed the world despite facing incredible odds. These stories fueled his imagination and gave him hope for the future. He also found joy in sports, joining the school's soccer team and surprising everyone with his speed and agility. On the field, Ravi felt free, like nothing could hold him back. Meanwhile, Ethan continued to support Ravi in every possible way. He celebrated his victories no matter how small, and stood by him during tough times. Together they explored the city, visiting museums, parks, and historical landmarks. Each outing was a chance for Ravi to learn something new and broaden his perspective. One Saturday afternoon, while walking through a bustling neighborhood, they stumbled upon a community center where volunteers distributed food and clothes to homeless people. Watching the scene unfold, Ravi felt a pang of nostalgia. He remembered what it was like to depend on such kindness, and he knew he wanted to give back someday. That night, as they sat together in the living room, Ravi shared his thoughts with Ethan. "I want to help others like me," he said earnestly. "People who are still struggling, who don't have anyone to turn to." Ethan listened intently, nodding in agreement. "That's a great idea," he replied. "But we need to think carefully about how to do it. Helping people isn't just about giving them food or shelter, it's about empowering them to build better lives." The conversation sparked an idea in Ethan's mind. Why not create an organization dedicated to supporting underprivileged children? They could provide resources like education, healthcare, and mentorship programs, helping kids break free from cycles of poverty. Excited by the prospect, Ethan and Ravi began brainstorming ways to bring their vision to life. They discussed potential names, goals, and strategies, pouring their hearts into the project. Over the next few months, they worked tirelessly to turn their dream into reality. Ethan used his family's connections to gather funding and support, while Ravi shared his insights about the challenges faced by street children. Their combined efforts paid off, and soon they had enough resources to launch their initiative. They called it Hope Rising, a name that reflected their mission to uplift and inspire. The organization started small, focusing on a single neighborhood, but its impact quickly grew. Volunteers joined their cause, eager to make a difference. Local businesses donated supplies, and schools offered scholarships to participating children. Ravi became the face of the movement, speaking passionately about his journey and encouraging others to believe in themselves. His speeches resonated deeply with audiences, reminding them that no one should be defined by their circumstances. Ethan stood proudly beside him, marveling at how much Ravi had grown since the day they met. As Hope Rising expanded, it transformed countless lives, including Ravi's own. He went from being a shy, uncertain boy to a confident young leader who inspired others with his courage and resilience. Yet despite all the success, Ravi never lost sight of his roots. He carried his wooden box with him wherever he went, using it as a reminder of where he came from and why he was fighting for change. To him, it symbolized hope, strength, and the power of second chances. Through their work with Hope Rising, Ethan and Ravi formed an unbreakable bond. They weren't just brothers by choice. They were partners in a mission to create a brighter future for those in need. Together, they proved that compassion and determination could overcome any obstacle. And though their journey was far from over, they faced each new challenge with unwavering optimism, knowing they had each other's backs. Years passed and Ravi blossomed into a remarkable young man. He excelled in school, earned top grades, and graduated with honors. Along the way, he inspired countless others to pursue their dreams, showing them that anything was possible with hard work and perseverance. Ethan watched with pride as Ravi stepped into leadership roles within Hope Rising, guiding the organization toward even greater heights. Through it all, their friendship remained as strong as ever, built on a foundation of trust, respect, and shared purpose. Looking back on their journey, Ethan often reflected on the day he had pointed at Ravi in the market and declared, "That's my brother." At the time, he hadn't fully understood what those words meant, but now he realized they were more than just a statement. They were a promise to stand by Ravi no matter what, to support him through thick and thin, and to show the world that family isn't limited to bloodlines. It's about connection, compassion, and the belief that everyone deserves a chance to shine. As Hope Rising continued to grow, its impact rippled across the city and beyond. What had started as a small initiative in one neighborhood soon expanded to multiple districts, reaching children from all walks of life. Schools partnered with the organization to offer free tutoring and mentorship programs. Doctors volunteered their time to provide medical checkups for families who couldn't afford health care. Even local businesses joined in, offering internships and job training to older kids eager to learn new skills. The movement became a beacon of hope, proving that even the smallest efforts could spark meaningful change. Ravi played a central role in this transformation. He wasn't just a figurehead, he was actively involved in every aspect of the organization. From organizing fundraising events to visiting communities and speaking directly with children, Ravi poured his heart into the work. His personal story resonated deeply with those he met, inspiring them to believe that no matter how difficult their circumstances, they too could rise above. People often remarked on his humility and determination, qualities that made him relatable and trustworthy. To many, Ravi wasn't just a leader, he was proof that dreams could come true. Ethan supported Ravi every step of the way, using his resources and influence to amplify their mission. Together, they traveled to different parts of the country, meeting with government officials, philanthropists, and community leaders to discuss ways to expand Hope Rising's reach. Their partnership was seamless, each complementing the other's strengths. While Ethan handled logistics and planning, Ravi focused on connecting with people, sharing stories that moved hearts and opened wallets. They made a formidable team, united by a shared vision of a better world. Despite their success, challenges still arose. There were skeptics who doubted their ability to sustain such an ambitious project. Some accused them of being naive, claiming that poverty was too complex, an issue to tackle head-on. Others questioned whether two individuals, one born into privilege and the other raised on the streets, could truly bridge the gap between their vastly different worlds. But Ethan and Ravi refused to let criticism deter them. Instead, they used it as motivation to work harder, determined to prove the naysayers wrong. One particular challenge stood out during this period: funding. Running an organization as large as Hope Rising required significant financial support, and there were times when donations fell short. During these lean months, Ethan and Ravi had to make tough decisions about which programs to prioritize and which ones to temporarily suspend. It was a stressful process, but they remained transparent with their team and beneficiaries, explaining the situation honestly and seeking creative solutions. For instance, they organized charity runs, art exhibitions, and benefit concerts to raise additional funds. These events not only brought in money but also helped spread awareness about their cause. Through it all, Ravi never forgot the lessons he had learned growing up on the streets. He taught everyone around him the importance of resourcefulness, gratitude, and resilience. When supplies ran low, he encouraged volunteers to think outside the box, finding innovative ways to stretch limited resources. If someone felt discouraged, he reminded them of how far they had already come and urged them to keep going. His positivity was infectious, lifting spirits and reigniting passion whenever morale dipped. As years passed, Ravi's leadership evolved. He began taking on more responsibilities within Hope Rising, eventually becoming its official director. Under his guidance, the organization launched several groundbreaking initiatives, including a scholarship program for underprivileged students and a shelter network for homeless families. Each new project reflected Ravi's deep understanding of the challenges faced by those living in poverty. He ensured that every decision was made with empathy and care, always putting the needs of the community first. Meanwhile, Ethan stepped back slightly, allowing Ravi to take center stage. Though he remained actively involved, Ethan recognized that this was Ravi's moment to shine. He took pride in watching his adopted brother grow into a confident, capable leader who commanded respect without demanding it. Their relationship hadn't changed. They were still as close as ever, but their dynamic shifted naturally as Ravi embraced his role as the face of Hope Rising. The bond between them extended beyond their professional collaboration. In private moments, they continued to share laughter, memories, and dreams for the future. Ethan often teased Ravi about his early days at school, recalling how nervous he had been on his first day. "You've come a long way since then," Ethan would say with a grin. Ravi would laugh, acknowledging how much he had grown while thanking Ethan for believing in him when few others did. Their friendship wasn't without its disagreements, of course. Like any close relationship, they occasionally clashed over ideas or approaches, but these disagreements strengthened rather than weakened their bond. They learned to listen to each other's perspectives, compromise when necessary, and ultimately, trust that their shared goal outweighed individual differences. Through it all, their mutual respect deepened, solidifying their partnership as unshakable. Outside of their work with Hope Rising, both Ethan and Ravi found joy in simple pleasures. They spent weekends exploring nature trails, cooking meals together, or simply relaxing at home. These quiet moments provided balance to their otherwise hectic lives, reminding them of the importance of rest and reflection. For Ravi, these experiences were especially meaningful because they represented stability, a luxury he had never known before meeting Ethan. As Hope Rising gained international recognition, invitations began pouring in for Ravi to speak at conferences and events around the world. At first, he hesitated, unsure if he was ready to step onto such a big stage, but Ethan encouraged him, reminding him of the countless lives he had already touched. "Your voice matters," Ethan told him one evening as they prepared for Ravi's first overseas trip. "People need to hear your story, not just because it's inspiring, but because it shows what's possible." Ravi's speeches captivated audiences worldwide. Whether addressing thousands in a packed auditorium or sitting down for intimate interviews, he spoke with authenticity and conviction. He shared not only his struggles but also his triumphs, emphasizing the power of kindness, perseverance, and community. His words resonated deeply, leaving listeners inspired to take action in their own lives. By the time he returned home, Ravi realized that his journey had become more than just a personal story. It was now a global movement. Back in the city, Hope Rising flourished under Ravi's leadership. New branches opened in neighboring towns, bringing aid and opportunities to even more communities. Volunteers flocked to join the cause, motivated by Ravi's example. Children who had once slept on sidewalks now attended school, dreaming of futures they had never imagined possible. Families who had struggled to put food on the table found steady employment through Hope Rising's job placement programs. Slowly, but surely the organization was rewriting destinies. Yet, amidst all the achievements, Ravi remained grounded. He carried his wooden box wherever he went, treating it like a cherished keepsake. Inside, he kept mementos from his past, the broken watch, the rusty keys, and the faded photographs that served as reminders of where he came from. Whenever doubt crept in or challenges seemed insurmountable, he opened the box and traced his fingers over its contents, drawing strength from the memories they held. For Ethan, seeing Ravi thrive filled him with immense pride. He often thought about how different their lives might have been if fate hadn't brought them together that day in the market. Would Ravi still be scavenging for scraps? Would Ethan have discovered the depth of compassion within himself? These questions lingered in his mind, reinforcing his belief in the randomness and beauty of life's twists and turns. Together, Ethan and Ravi proved that change was possible, not through grand gestures or miraculous interventions, but through consistent effort, unwavering commitment, and genuine care for others. They showed that anyone, regardless of background or circumstances, could make a difference. And as Hope Rising continued to grow, touching lives far and wide, they knew their work was far from over. Their journey was a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds forged not by blood but by shared humanity. As Hope Rising entered its 10th year, the organization had become a household name, synonymous with hope and transformation. The small initiative that Ethan and Ravi had started in a modest neighborhood had grown into a global movement, impacting millions of lives. Schools, shelters, and healthcare centers bearing the Hope Rising logo dotted cities across continents. Yet, despite its massive scale, the heart of the organization remained unchanged. its focus on empowering individuals and fostering communities. Ravi, now in his late 20s, stood at the forefront of this success. He had matured into a charismatic leader, admired not just for his achievements but also for his humility and authenticity. People were drawn to him because he never forgot where he came from. Whether addressing world leaders at international summits or sitting cross-legged on the floor of a makeshift classroom teaching children how to read, Ravi carried himself with the same sincerity and warmth. His wooden box, though no longer holding trinkets, had become a symbol of resilience, a reminder of the boy who once scavenged for scraps and now led an empire of compassion. Ethan, too, had evolved over the years. While he still played a vital role in supporting Hope Rising, he had stepped back from the limelight to focus on mentoring young volunteers and managing the organization's finances. He often joked that he was the behind-the-scenes guy, ensuring everything ran smoothly, while Ravi took center stage. But those close to them knew better. Ethan's contributions were invaluable, and his unwavering belief in Ravi had been the foundation upon which Hope Rising was built. Their partnership remained as strong as ever, though their roles had shifted naturally. They complemented each other, perfectly balancing vision with execution. During board meetings, Ravi would passionately outline ambitious plans for expansion, while Ethan calmly analyzed budgets and timelines to ensure feasibility. Their dynamic worked seamlessly, earning respect from everyone involved. Even after a decade, their shared mission kept them united, driving them forward even when challenges loomed large. One of the biggest challenges during this phase came in the form of scaling up operations. As Hope Rising expanded globally, managing logistics became increasingly complex. Each country had unique needs, cultural nuances, and regulatory hurdles. Building trust within new communities required time and effort, and there were moments when progress felt painfully slow. Critics began to question whether the organization could maintain its grassroots spirit while operating on such a massive scale. But Ravi and Ethan refused to compromise their values. They traveled extensively, visiting remote villages and urban slums to understand the specific challenges faced by each community. Instead of imposing solutions, they worked alongside locals, listening to their ideas and incorporating them into tailored programs. This approach earned them widespread support, proving that empathy and collaboration could overcome even the toughest obstacles. During one such trip to a rural village in Africa, Ravi encountered a young girl named Amina. She reminded him so much of his younger self, barefoot, malnourished, yet fiercely determined. Amina spent her days collecting firewood and caring for her siblings while dreaming of going to school. When Ravi met her, she shyly admitted that she wanted to be a teacher someday. Her words struck a chord deep within him, reigniting memories of his own childhood dreams. Determined to help Amina, Ravi worked with local partners to establish a scholarship program specifically for girls like her. Within months, dozens of children were enrolled in nearby schools, receiving uniforms, books, and meals provided by Hope Rising. Amina blossomed under the opportunity, excelling in her studies and inspiring others in her village to pursue education. Watching her transformation filled Ravi with a profound sense of fulfillment, reinforcing why he had dedicated his life to this cause. Back home, Ethan continued to innovate behind the scenes. Recognizing the importance of technology and modern problem-solving, he spearheaded the development of a digital platform that connected donors directly with beneficiaries. Through this app, users could track exactly how their contributions were being used, from funding a child's education to building wells in drought-prone areas. Transparency was key, and the platform quickly gained popularity, attracting younger generations eager to make a tangible impact. The combination of Ravi's grassroots leadership and Ethan's strategic thinking propelled Hope Rising to new heights. Awards and accolades poured in, recognizing their groundbreaking work. Yet neither Ravi nor Ethan cared much for the fame. To them, the real reward lay in the smiles of children attending school for the first time, the relief on parents' faces as they secured steady jobs, and the pride of entire communities reclaiming their dignity. Despite their accomplishments, both men understood that the fight against poverty was far from over. New challenges emerged constantly, climate change displacing families, political instability disrupting aid efforts, and economic crises worsening inequality. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, Ravi and Ethan embraced these difficulties as opportunities to adapt and grow. They encouraged their team to stay flexible, always ready to pivot when circumstances changed. In quieter moments, they reflected on their journey together. Late-night conversations over cups of tea became a cherished ritual, allowing them to recharge and reconnect. They talked about the early days of Hope Rising, laughing at mistakes made along the way and marveling at how far they had come. These reflections weren't just nostalgic. They served as reminders of their purpose and fueled their determination to keep pushing forward. One evening, as they sat on the balcony overlooking the city lights, Ravi turned to Ethan and said, "Do you remember the day we met? You pointed at me and called me your brother." Ethan chuckled, nodding. "Of course I do. I didn't know it then, but that moment changed everything, for both of us." Ravi smiled softly, his eyes glistening with emotion. "It saved my life, Ethan. And now, because of you, I get to save others." Ethan placed a hand on Ravi's shoulder, his voice steady but filled with pride. "You've done more than save lives, Ravi. You've given people hope. That's something no one can ever take away." The two sat in silence for a while, letting the weight of those words sink in. In that moment, they realized that their bond wasn't just about what they had achieved. It was about the countless lives they had touched along the way. Years later, as Hope Rising celebrated its 20th anniversary, the organization hosted a grand event attended by dignitaries, celebrities, and beneficiaries alike. Speeches were delivered, awards were handed out, and videos showcasing the organization's impact brought tears to many eyes. But the highlight of the evening came when Ravi invited Ethan to join him on stage. Standing before thousands of people, Ravi addressed the crowd. "When I was a boy, I dreamed of a better life. But I never imagined I'd stand here today, surrounded by so many incredible souls working toward a brighter future. None of this would have been possible without the man beside me, my brother, Ethan. He saw potential in me when no one else did, and together we've shown the world that family isn't defined by bloodlines but by love and shared purpose." The audience erupted into applause, moved by Ravi's heartfelt words. Ethan, typically reserved, found himself blinking back tears as he hugged Ravi tightly. It was a moment neither of them would ever forget, a culmination of decades of hard work, sacrifice, and unwavering faith in each other. As the celebration continued, Ravi glanced around the room, taking in the sea of smiling faces. Children laughed as they played games organized by volunteers. Elders chatted animatedly about the positive changes in their neighborhoods, and young professionals discussed innovative ideas for tackling future challenges. Hope Rising had created a ripple effect, inspiring countless others to join the fight against poverty and injustice. For Ravi and Ethan, the journey was far from over. There were still battles to fight, stories to write, and lives to transform. But standing side by side, they faced the future with courage and optimism, knowing that together, they could overcome anything. Their story was proof that kindness, resilience, and unity could spark extraordinary change, not just for themselves but for the world. As Hope Rising entered its third decade, the organization faced new challenges that tested its resilience and adaptability. The world was changing rapidly, with technological advancements, shifting political landscapes, and emerging global crises, like pandemics and climate disasters. These changes brought both opportunities and obstacles, forcing Ravi and Ethan to rethink their strategies and innovate continuously. One of the biggest hurdles came in the form of a global health crisis. A deadly virus swept across nations, shutting down economies and leaving millions vulnerable. Schools closed, jobs disappeared, and families struggled to survive. For Hope Rising, this meant reimagining how they could continue supporting communities while adhering to safety protocols. Ravi and Ethan knew they couldn't afford to pause their efforts, not when so many depended on them. They quickly pivoted to digital solutions, launching online classes for children who no longer had access to schools. Volunteers delivered tablets and internet connections to remote areas, ensuring no child was left behind. Food banks were set up in partnership with local governments, providing meals to families hit hardest by the crisis. Medical teams worked tirelessly, offering free consultations and distributing essential supplies like masks and sanitizers. Through it all, Ravi and Ethan remained at the forefront, leading with calm determination and inspiring others to stay hopeful. The pandemic also highlighted the importance of mental health support. Many people, especially children, were struggling with isolation, anxiety, and grief. Recognizing this need, Hope Rising introduced counseling programs led by trained psychologists. Ravi shared his own experiences during these sessions, telling stories of how he had coped with loneliness as a child. His vulnerability resonated deeply with participants, helping them feel less alone in their struggles. When the worst of the crisis passed, the world began to rebuild. But the scars ran deep, particularly in marginalized communities. Unemployment rates soared, and food insecurity became a widespread issue. Once again, Ravi and Ethan stepped up, expanding job training programs to equip adults with skills needed in the post-pandemic economy. From coding boot camps to sustainable farming workshops, Hope Rising empowered people to take control of their futures. Despite these successes, Ravi often found himself reflecting on the cost of progress. Years of relentless work had taken a toll on his personal life. He rarely took time off, always putting others' needs before his own. Ethan noticed this and gently urged him to slow down. "You can't pour from an empty cup," Ethan reminded him one evening as they sat together. After a long day. "If you burn out, who will lead the charge?" Ravi nodded, understanding the wisdom in Ethan's words. Slowly, he began carving out moments for himself, reading books, taking walks, or simply enjoying quiet evenings without distractions. These small breaks rejuvenated him, allowing him to return to his duties with renewed energy. Ethan, too, made a conscious effort to balance work and leisure, knowing that self-care was crucial for sustained impact. Their commitment to sustainability extended beyond their personal lives. As leaders of a global organization, Ravi and Ethan understood the importance of environmental responsibility. They launched green initiatives aimed at reducing waste and promoting eco-friendly practices. Solar panels powered Hope Rising facilities, reusable materials replaced single-use plastics, and tree planting drives became a regular activity. By integrating sustainability into their mission, they inspired others to adopt environmentally conscious habits. Meanwhile, Hope Rising continued to evolve, embracing cutting-edge technologies to amplify its reach. Artificial intelligence tools helped identify areas most in need of aid. Drone deliveries transported medical supplies to inaccessible regions, and virtual reality simulations trained volunteers for real-world scenarios. These innovations not only improved efficiency, but also attracted younger generations eager to contribute using modern methods. Amidst all the growth, Ravi never lost sight of the human element. He believed that technology should enhance, not replace, personal connections. Whenever possible, he visited beneficiaries personally, listening to their stories and learning from their experiences. This hands-on approach ensured that Hope Rising remained grounded, staying true to its roots even as it embraced change. Ethan, now in his 50s, began mentoring the next generation of leaders within the organization. He saw potential in young volunteers, guiding them to develop skills and confidence. Among them was Priya, a bright and passionate woman who reminded him of Ravi in his early days. Under Ethan's guidance, Priya rose through the ranks, eventually becoming Ravi's right-hand person. Together, the trio formed a powerful leadership team, blending experience with fresh perspectives. As the years rolled on, Ravi and Ethan celebrated milestones big and small. They cheered when a former beneficiary graduated from university, cried when a longtime volunteer passed away, and laughed over silly mistakes made along the way. Each moment reinforced their belief in the power of community and collective effort. One particularly memorable milestone came when Amina, the girl Ravi had met in Africa years earlier, returned to Hope Rising as a teacher. She had fulfilled her childhood dream of educating others, thanks to the scholarship program that had supported her journey. Standing before a classroom filled with eager students, Amina shared her story, crediting Ravi and Ethan for believing in her when she doubted herself. Her presence was a testament to the ripple effect of kindness, a reminder that every action, no matter how small, could create waves of change. By the time Ravi turned 40, Hope Rising had transformed countless lives, including his own. He stood taller now, his once shy demeanor replaced by quiet confidence. Yet he remained humble, always quick to credit others for the organization's success. In speeches, interviews, and casual conversations, he emphasized that Hope Rising wasn't about him or Ethan. It was about the collective strength of everyone involved. Ethan, too, felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Watching Ravi grow into the man he was today filled him with pride. He often thought about the day he had pointed at Ravi in the market and declared, "That's my brother." Back then, he hadn't fully grasped the significance of those words. Now he realized they encapsulated everything Hope Rising stood for: connection, compassion, and the belief that family transcends bloodlines. In their later years, Ravi and Ethan began documenting their journey, hoping to inspire future generations. They wrote books, recorded podcasts, and created documentaries detailing the highs and lows of building Hope Rising. Their message was simple: anyone could make a difference, regardless of background or resources. All it took was courage, persistence, and a willingness to care for others. On the day Hope Rising marked its 30th anniversary, Ravi and Ethan stood side by side, looking out at a crowd of thousands gathered to celebrate. Children waved colorful flags, adults clapped rhythmically, and banners bearing the organization's logo fluttered in the breeze. It was a scene of joy and unity, a far cry from the dusty market where their story had begun. As fireworks lit up the night sky, Ravi leaned toward Ethan and whispered, "We did it." Ethan smiled, his eyes misty with emotion. "No, Ravi," he replied softly. "You did it. I just gave you a push." Ravi shook his head, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "It was never just me, it was us always." And in that moment, surrounded by the fruits of their labor, they knew their legacy would endure. Not because of what they had built, but because of the love and hope they had shared with the world. Their story was proof that even in the darkest times, light could shine through, and that together humanity could overcome anything.